I'd like to call to order the regularly scheduled town council meeting of Monday, July 18th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Doing that, if we all could do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The mayor is en route, so Mayor Lisa will be here shortly. Do we have public comment? Anybody in the public like to speak?
Good evening, Ed Ciccarello, 40 Riverview Road, Rocky Hill. I have 4 items, some updates, some questions, and I'm hoping that at some point, perhaps tonight, somebody can answer them or connect with me at some level to answer the questions. First, I'd like to wish our interim town manager the best over the next few months steering the ship. Go, Mr. Ray Carpentino, you go. You look good up there, buddy. And certainly wish the selection committee good luck in finding a replacement for our town manager, an appropriate town manager that could lead us into the future. Lots of things happening in Rocky Hill. Ames is going down, hopefully. Straska is going up. And we have the train depot even down by the Meadow Road is doing some work. But the question I have is what's going on with the foundry. So if I can get an update on that, haven't seen much action down there in a long time. Certainly would like to see it. Been an advocate of that development. Love to see Tolosano Park. Love to see the towers come down. Second thing I have is I read the minutes from your last meeting, and there's a correction that I'd like you to make. Is somebody mentioned that the Sustainable Rocky Hill team meets weekly, and we meet bi-weekly. I want to thank the mayor for the sign in regards to the some of the sustainable work we're doing. Right now I'm working on the pollinator pass. I was inspired by my good friend over here, Stephanie Hennigan. And the 3 things that are in regards to pollinators are educating people, installing some gardens, and developing a resolution. And I'm working with Craig Bowman on Parks and Rec for a resolution. I hope that comes to you. The third thing I'd like to ask is if we can get an update on the dividend and the building of the sidewalks down to the river. I understand that you appropriated $20,000 to close off dividend right by the green. So where is that? Do we have some sort of timeline? Love to know what's going on with that. And lastly, I was here when you all voted for the food waste deep grant. And I want to certainly thank you for thinking forward, thinking in a cutting-edge style. You could save the town money, and the larger thing is the impact you'll have by removing 40% of the food waste on the climate. So if there's any news on the DEEP grant or a timeline, did we get the grant? I'd love to know that. Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? All right, and I don't believe we have anybody in queue, so there's no reports on the queue or public comment from online. So we will go to appointments and resignations. Councilor Duff?
No appointments or resignations at this time.
And to Councilor Greenspan?
No appointments and resignations.
Thank you. And with the amendment of the June 20th meeting minutes to reflect bi-weekly meetings on that particular the subcommittee on inclusion? Sustainable. Excuse me, to sustainable. So with that amendment, Do I have a motion to approve the town council meeting minutes of June 20th, 2022, and the town council special meeting minutes of June 24th, 2022?
I'll make said motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
What
Okay.
abstention?
One abstention?
I was out. Thank you.
All right. And that being said, I turn the gavel over to the mayor.
What I really want to know is, what is this red one for? It's like the emergency gavel is on my desk.
Could have it back.
That's kind of scary.
Ed's travel gavel.
Okay. So we did both meeting minutes?
You're at the subcommittee report.
Awesome. So is there a finance subcommittee report?
Yes, there is. Finance Subcommittee met on Thursday, July 14th. Just a few of the highlights. Issued us some new bond anticipatory notes, or known as BANs, $4.25 million worth. A net interest cost of just under 2.45%. With Jeffries, that was the lowest, the best bid that we had gotten. So, and actually a little bit better than I think the folks in finance were anticipating. So that's good news. There's a couple things on the consent agenda. You will see the warning of the bid for 374 New Britain Avenue for $60,100. That's the taking down of the Straska house there, and that'll come up, I think, Ed will talk about that in more detail later. And also the return of Board of Education funds, $942,258. And with the majority of that going toward the GMS roof, with a portion to go toward other Board of Ed CIP. And this was in line with what was discussed during the budget session, so no surprises there. So we're happy to get that money back. And lastly, at the fiscal year just ended, so the initial reports are that we hope to and expect to get a very small surplus, which is exactly really where you want to be as far as budgeting on the government side goes. So hopefully that holds true, and we'll see how that plays out as we go beyond year end further. And that's about it.
Okay, thank you. Government operations?
Government operations canceled their meeting for this evening, so our next scheduled to meet on Monday, August 1st.
Thank you. Public safety?
Public safety met earlier this evening, and our report is such that fire has reported 58 incidents responded to, with a year-to-date total of 309. Training hours recorded of 353, bringing the year-to-date total to 2,166. No firefighter injuries reported. The staffing is holding level at 66 with 61 active. It's a little low, and fire department is going to be actively recruiting and starting some recruitment programs for the volunteer fire department. So we could use volunteers if you're so inclined out there. The state reimbursement program for volunteer fire departments that respond to limited access highways has kicked in. So we have applications now in at the state to be reimbursed for trips to Route 91. And the word is that all the applications look in good standing, so we're expecting our reimbursement for those activities right on schedule. So that's great to report. The ambulance reported 395 calls for the month of June, which brings the year-to-date total to 2,210 calls for service. 18 canceled, 10 of which were no patient contact, 3 calls that were canceled prior to arrival. There were 3 lift assists in those numbers, and right now the ambulance is running at active riding members of 37, associate members non-riding 8, probationary members in training 12, medical leave 3, school leave 4, but they're back for the summer, so they're taking some shifts, and 1 still on military leave. So the active members list is holding at 65, which it was the last report. And they were able to get in 52 hours of training for the month of June, which was on aspirin and diabetic skills, handling diabetic cases. As for the police, Police reported a very active month. May was up, but June was up even more, so calls for service, 3,346, bringing the year-to-date total to 23,754 calls into dispatch. That's more than we're halfway through the year, and that's more than halfway to our last year's total. So calls for service are up, and obviously a lot of those are in the social service arena as well, mental distress and other calls such as that. Criminal arrests were 34 for June, motor vehicle accidents 41, DUIs 9, infractions issued 118, and warnings issued 274. Training hours were 457. The task force, Hartford Task Force, yielded equally large numbers. So year-to-date, that Hartford Task Force has recovered 245 stolen cars. They have made 99 arrests. They have 24 firearms recovered, and they have served 80 warrants that were outstanding. They actually served them and brought those folks in. 38 miscellaneous arrests. And they completed the 4 ALICE training programs, which is the active shooter training. A request was made from the senior center to have an ALICE program at the senior center, and they are going to schedule that for us. That request came in through Rita Thibodeau, and the chief has it. August 2nd is the traditional night out and law enforcement night out, and that'll be at our concert series where the police show up and have their cruisers and equipment and generally interact with the public and dish out, I think, ice cream and hot dogs and all kinds of good stuff and do some exhibits. So that's August 2nd. Emergency management has, at the instruction of the state emergency management, initiated our heat cooling centers. We're going to be entering into a strong heat wave, I guess, right after this shower today. So tomorrow and the rest of the week. So the cooling hour, the cooling center is open, and I believe that's the at the library. So and that's during normal working hours, I think 9 to 5, and will be extended on conditions based on conditions on the ground. And the emergency management is initiating their quarterly meetings. Councilor Prakash will be attending their quarterly meetings, so they've got those back on the calendar, and they'll be going through things that that emergency management goes through. And that's the report. The next meeting will be August 15th at 5:30.
Okay, thank you. Senior liaison?
We have not had a meeting since our last council meeting. The next one is scheduled for Monday, the 25th at 5 p.m.
Land acquisition and farmland preservation?
Sure. We did meet. Okay. So we last met on June 28th, and we found out at that meeting that our low bid contractor to take down the Streska farmhouse and the remaining sheds on the site backed out of the contract. So we went back up to the next lowest bidder, and that's what you'll see on the consent agenda. I believe it's located on consent agenda.
Yeah, item A.
Item A.
Yeah.
For a resolution to go ahead and hire the next lowest bidder, who I believe has already been contacted. I don't know, Ray, if you want to add anything quickly on that note, or Mona?
You want me to?
Why don't we let Mona do that, because I'm just got back and I'm a little bit jet lagged.
Mona is the acting town manager at Public Safety, and thought she was the acting town manager for council, but our interim town manager has arrived.
No, I'm just a stand-in.
Just to stand in. Mona?
I will fill you in. So yes, the second runner-up is available and is planning to meet them at the site as long as our consent agenda item goes well. So they're expected to meet tomorrow. I think their expected start date should be for August 1st, first week of August.
And that process, we're being told by the contractors, is like a 4-day process, all things going well. So once they start, we'll clear it, but it's just, we're having a bit of a hard time getting started. The next meeting would
sorry.
be, pardon?
Well, I just had a quick question, I guess, through Ed to Ray to Mona. Our previous bid was under that, I think, $50,000 threshold to go through CHRO, and this one is above it. Do we have to worry about that impacting the timing? I just heard August, so that's good, but do we have to worry about getting any approval because it involves state funds, or are we good to go for August?
We will have to, the contractor will have to go through CHRO, but I'm told by CHRO that I'm told that their turnaround time is very short nowadays. And the contractor's aware of that anyway. And his
Okay.
bid was above it, so they were aware of the CHRO requirement anyway.
And I think you had checked with the state, and they were okay with us switching contractors, so
Yes.
they knew the circumstance.
Thank you.
The next farmland meeting is July 26th at 6 o'clock.
Just on, could I ask one question on
Sure.
that also? And Mona, I guess I'll direct it to you as the finance director on that. I know when we put these bids out that there was a bid bond as a part of the process.
Yes.
Can you update us with where we are on retaining?
Yes,
Bid
which
bond.
we are still pursuing the bid bond for the first bidder. So it's a 5% bond on that. So we're in contact with the bid bond surety. So I'm having phone conversations with them at this point. So, and we're looking at about $2,035, which is the amount we're trying to collect.
And that's our only recourse, because the contract was
is.
never signed.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
That was it for farmland.
Okay. Liaison to the state rep and state senator.
No report.
School liaison.
No meeting, no report. Thank you, ma'am.
Capital Improvements Committee.
Also, no meeting, no report.
Economic Development Committee.
No meeting and no meeting scheduled in the near short-term future, so no report.
Town Manager Search Committee.
Sure, we have not met, but we do have a quick update that the search is going well, and we expect the lion's share of the advertising and searching and getting our notice for applicants will be completed in July, which will allow the subcommittee to potentially come together the first week in August to begin the review, the pool of applicants that we have to try to narrow it down to some finalists. Of course, the process will stay open through November to get additional applicants, but we have a pool of applicants, and we should be able to get together the first week in August to review those.
Okay.
Sorry, Ed, I just had a quick question. Do we know in terms of posting, you mentioned we had a pool of applicants, which sounds good. I imagine we posted it on the town site. Is the search firm also posting in other different, venues? You know?
Yes, they've put together a marketing brochure. So they came in, we interviewed them, they interviewed us, to key aspects of the town, and they put together a marketing brochure on their own, and they've been getting that all spread out around the country. So our search is national, their search is national, and I can tell you that the applicant pool is well represented nationally.
Great, thanks.
Moving on to consent agenda, we have 4 items, A through D.
I make a motion to approve, can we do all, it's consent, we do all 4, to approve items A through D on the consent agenda.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Are you opposed?
We're going to do the update on the 2 positions, Alan?
They will be updated on the website. On the website, the position that was posted still has the February job description. The updated position will be updated. That's in the packet.
Can we get that kind of on the record, though, because I think it's confusing.
Well, right now, we're doing the consent agenda. So So do you want to abstain from the consent agenda or oppose it?
I think that the question was, because the wrong posting is on there on the budget, so the approval for these two is not on the public record, so I just was thinking that we might want to clarify that for somebody that's looking at it and seeing that, because it's the wrong budget. I had a discussion offline with Alan about that, so
I wasn't aware. So you want to make a motion for that?
motion to have an update.
Could
Well, I
we-
think what you want to do is you want to amend it, right? Are you making some type of amendment to the agenda so that we can add this? And then you want to have a discussion?
Sure.
Is that what you're asking for?
Yeah, I mean,
Under subcommittee reports, before we get to the consent agenda.
Okay, let's do that.
Would it go under one of the subcommittee reports? Or otherwise, we would just, pull them off of the consent, put them in new business and talk about it there? I'm not
Yeah, I
sure.
think that's
we
the
could
way
do
to
that
go.
as
I think it
well.
has to be
Okay.
new business.
So I'll move that we pull consent agenda items C and D off of the consent agenda and add them onto new business so we can clarify the budget posting.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Now let's go back and do the consent agenda.
So with that, I'll make a motion to approve items A and B on the consent agenda.
Okay,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Alan, you were part of that conversation?
Yes.
You want to do that?
What, we're gonna go in order on the old
Okay,
business?
we could. Going to old business discussion, possible action, American Rescue Plan ARP funding options.
I have nothing new to add to that topic at this point.
Okay. I think at this point, we have put aside our $1 million, and we want to be frugal with that because it's not a good time. But if there are suggestions,
I think it just might be good, just coming out of the budget. This is the last $1 million we have out of both tranches, so we're trying to be judicious in how it's applied. right?
exactly, yeah. Okay.
So I have a comment. The town website still shows the Small Business Economic Assistance Program, so it's still there. So businesses can still go in and pull down the app for the 5,000 grant that we were giving out
Okay.
with this assistance money. And so I'm aware of at least 2 businesses that
update.
put in. So I think we should,
Is there a deadline on the application?
Yeah, I thought the deadline
Yeah.
expired.
There is a deadline on it, so we can update the website so it doesn't attract any questions, but there was a deadline and we closed that.
Okay, thank you.
Let's update the website to avoid that.
Yeah,
Okay.
that should have been taken off the website a couple weeks ago.
Thanks.
Okay. Why don't we move on to B, discussion possible action, Sustainable Rocky Hill Task Force. Unfortunately, I spoke to the town attorney today, and he does not have everything completed, but we will have that at our next meeting, and we can move forward with process for that. Moving on to new business A, discussion possible action, NAGE local number RI 266 contract for 2022 through 2026.
Okay. You received in your packet the contract for the NAGE 266. That was discussed at an executive session, probably in-depth to, if there's any discussion, we have Dana McGee, Human Resources Compliance, can answer any questions, or if we want to just go forward with a vote on that.
I think we should move forward with the vote.
If you don't mind, if we,
You may.
Dana, could you just let us know if there's been any changes since our last meeting? So we've,
No changes.
no changes since our last meeting.
No
Okay,
changes.
that's all I needed. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the NAGE local number RI-266 contract for 2022 through 2026, as presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to B, discussion possible action, appointments to naming committee. So we have a couple of things, couple of requests. One is to name the farm, another is to name a room in the community senior center. And then ultimately, though it won't be decided now, once we do have an actual barn, there will be a request to name that bar, but since we, barn, not a bar. It's been a long weekend.
Everybody's
no,
ears perked up.
But I thought, now would be a good time to assemble the naming committee. And then for the next meeting, we could move forward with applications that we have on the table. So I'm not sure precisely what the process is to establish the naming committee, but should we look into that?
We can look into it.
Okay.
Is there one naming committee that handles all names, or is it each one has its own?
I think that what I remember is like there is sort of one that's in limbo, according to John, and then we just resurrect it, and so it's sort of that just group of people.
Yep.
Yeah.
So each one of these would have a separate application, and then people would provide input, and then the naming committee would decide.
I think they make a
recommendation to
recommendation.
council.
Yeah.
Right.
Makes sense.
An ad hoc committee, I think you called it.
So I imagine what will happen is we'll have somebody chair it, and they'll reach out to Minority Caucus for representation, just like we did with the search committee.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Jeff, I think you were on a naming committee once, weren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, were there 3 of you?
Yeah, I think 2 on majority, 1 on minority.
Okay, all right.
I think the council has to vote to.
I'd like to make a right, sure. I'd like to make a motion to go ahead and establish that naming committee, to have the mayor go ahead and establish the naming committee to go forward and consider naming applications that are coming in.
A second?
Any discussion?
Oh, sorry. Didn't hear you, sorry.
You second, maybe?
I did.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay, thank you. Yep. All right, moving on to C, discussion possible action. Where are we? Of approval, job description, human services specialist, and D, well, let's just do C,
Okay.
job description, human services.
So first, you have the job description for a human service specialist. This was the position that was presented during our budget process for the full-time human service specialist. This is a job description that goes with that. We'll note that for budget purposes, this particular position is a bit higher. We're delaying the filling of that position, into July, August, and that should compensate for the change, working with the department and human resources, that this is the salary that is most fitting for the needs of the department. So, we have any discussion on the human service specialist first?
Did you say it was a little bit competitive, the salary? What is typically the salary?
This would be the fitting salary.
Okay.
Initially, we had budgeted at 58,000,
Okay.
and it was not going to be as competitive as
I
they
see.
needed to attract the,
I think we need motions on the floor to have discussions.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you-
1 second.
This is here, and
Yeah. Okay.
maybe if you have,
Well, I
Did you
move
want to
that
make a
we
motion?
open for discussion, approval for the human services specialist and the youth services specialist.
Oh, second.
Any discussion?
Okay, somebody posed a question, actually, they stopped my husband in the community center.
but just finish the vote.
No,
No, this-
No,
the
weren't you,
discussion.
were you making a motion to add?
oh, yes, we got him, well, we're having discussion.
Right, it's just,
We
it's
can-
on the consent, right? So we're changing the agenda just to say
We did
discussion
that.
and possible action.
We did that.
I think we did.
Oh, we did? Okay, I thought we just moved it down. My fault.
Oh, I thought we included the whole.
Okay, that's fine.
Take a meeting off or fall apart.
And what happened is they were looking at what was posted on the budget, and they said they didn't see these 2 positions, so I went and looked, and I actually texted Chris and Alan, and the wrong budget is posted, so I think before we vote on this, we should clarify that the wrong budget is posted, and that we did in fact approve the funding for these. because otherwise it'd be confusing, somebody looking at it, the wrong thing is there. So I just wanted to clarify that I have no problem with the positions. I just wanted to clarify that that's, if somebody looking is not going to see them on there, so that needs to be corrected.
Okay, so we'll tell
Wrong
IT,
budget
Jen.
in what regard? Budget amount or page or?
I think that the,
I'm
I think,
confused.
Alan, I think.
Yeah,
you-
so, yeah, I took a quick look at my notes because my memory's shot. I'm
That's okay.
The youth services position, we funded out of the special revenue account, not out of the general operating budget.
Are we on D or
On
are we on?
item D.
Okay.
Item D. I didn't see anything
Oh.
on,
We had a conversation. If I can skip to D, I can address that.
sure, I mean, I think
if
we're
you
kind of
don't
doing
mind.
them both in combinations.
Okay.
Okay, well, let's just put it on the record then. So,
All right.
um,
So regarding D and the funding, you are correct. It is not in the budget as it is. C is the Human Services Assistant, which was put in as a new position for the 58,000, which is now presented as 70. The D, which is also the Youth Service Specialist, is not in the budget, and that's why we're presenting that to you tonight. The Department and Human Resources and working with Finance had identified the part-time money in Youth Services that had been put aside for Youth Services Assistant, and also part-time funds that were in the Human Services Department as a case manager. And their thoughts were to consolidate the two part-time, and that may be able to allow them to address their needs. So to consolidate, and that's what the discussion will be for D, is to consider taking the two part-time sources and address it as one full-time.
so is that what you're referring to?
Well, just that.
I believe it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Yes.
I don't know, that was just the question was, it wasn't in the budget, so that.
Okay.
That's
I
what
just
it
wanted
is.
clarification so that the
There you
public
go.
knows.
Perfect, that's perfect, thank you so
Yes.
much. Oh, yeah, okay, that's confusing. All right, so, is there any discussion about the first position? Human Services Specialist at this new rate? No, all right, so we'll take a motion then to
I
approve?
think we just got to vote, right?
Yeah.
Is there already a motion?
It's already a
The
motion.
motion second, this was discussion.
Yes, we just
So
vote, right?
Okay,
Just need to take the vote.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Now let's move on to D. Approval job description, Youth Services Specialist, and we have Melissa Hicks, the Director of Human Services here, and Dana McGee, the Director of Human Resources and Legal Compliance. If we have any questions, I think Mona did explain to us, and for the record, we'll just reiterate that it looks like this was not a budgeted item, but that there was money that was found within the department to consolidate a part-time position and use some additional funding to create this new much-needed youth services position, and that is what is before us today. If you like, we can call them to the podium if anyone wants to hear a little bit.
I just have I guess a question budget-wise, and I guess, like I said, Counselor Thoreau started the question with, where did we budget for it? And I went back through the notes from our budget workshop, and I saw that, I believe I made the motion to take that money from the special revenue account to fund it. And is that, I just want to make sure that those are
No.
the funds we're using, or
No,
are we
these
not
are-
using the special revenue?
No, this is not addressing the special revenue at all. This is referring to their general fund, part-time, that's already in two different, I guess it's within Melissa's department, but one is in the youth services, which was a youth services assistant, about $23,000, and the other was in human services. They had two part-time, a case manager and a part-timer, which was adding up to over 30+ thousand. So together, those part-times could allow her to get this full-time position. So it's all general fund under the part-time line of both human services and youth services. So the two department pages consolidating their part-time lines, excluding, of course, I think your food bank person remains part-time.
It's just a minor, and then just a minor adjustment increase over the sum of those two gets you to the 70,000.
Correct, correct.
And I'm fine with that. It just, for the next meeting, just look at what we approved as possibly an additional position. Because we definitely discussed doing something out of special revenue.
Okay.
And maybe it was a one-year, short-term fix, but I just want to know that we did it correctly going forward.
I will.
Anything else? Okay,
I think with that clarification, that
all in favor?
Aye.
Great. Okay, we're going to move on to the mayor's report. Thank you for coming. Okay, so, we haven't seen each other for a little bit, right? Because it's summertime. But what I wanted to touch base on first is car taxes, because there's been a lot of frustration out there over car taxes, and mainly because, as we know, the governor had promised to cut all of our car taxes, and yet folks in Rocky Hill and other municipalities are paying more than they did last year. And so the question that's come up is, how is it possible that you've raised the taxes on cars, or raised the values on cars? And so I wanted to kind of explain how this is happening here and around the state. I'm sure you've probably heard a lot of complaints on the news. I know that we're getting them through emails and when we're out talking to folks. So first, I think we have to consider how the cars are valued in the first instance, because there seems to be a common misconception about that. So basically, according to state statute, there is a uniform assessment date and a rate, and those rates are set as of October 1st. And the statute also determines that OPM recommends the way that motor vehicle values are determined. And our tax assessor is required to use a guide which is called the National Automobile Dealers Association Guide to determine value and to set the same based on that guidance. And so this is typically, and it is required of every municipality. It's what is done each year. Now, notably, I'm just going to throw in a little footnote here that next year will be different, because next year motor vehicles will be valued at the manufacturer's suggested retail price, which will be different, and then they will be on a depreciation table for a 20-year period. So we'll see differences there next year. But as for what is happening now, that is where the value comes from, and that guidance from NADA reflects the market value, which is set as of October 1st. And so I think we all realize that as of October 1st, the value of used cars was crazy high, right? I mean, if you had a used car, if you were looking to purchase a new car, you had to purchase a used car, and the supply and demand chain was just all out of whack. And so unfortunately, or fortunately, how you may look at it, your used car became a very valuable asset. And looking at that value of that used car, we next have to factor in the mill rate. And I think this is where folks also get confused, because in order for us to balance our budget, right, in order for us to pay the bills in town, we increased our mill rate by 0.4 of a mil. And I think we've had these discussions. If we had gone any lower, it would have negatively impacted services. It could have potentially gone into a layoff situation, and we didn't need to do that. So we set our mill rate at 34.5, which is still low and competitive when we look at surrounding towns. And I did a little search today. So Wethersfield is at 41. Of a mill rate. Newington is at 38.4. Glastonbury's at 37.3. So when we were in our budget process, the governor and state lawmakers passed a bill, and they required all of us, every single municipality, to lower the mill rate specifically on motor vehicles to 32.4 mils, in anticipation that everyone would see a break in their car taxes. For us, that difference between what we had set our mill rate and what the governor was capping the car mill rate was a difference of 2.1 mils, which is not a very big difference. But had we been in a normal year where supply and demand wasn't so crazy and where motor vehicles weren't being valued at such a high rate, people probably would have seen a tax break. But we didn't. And the reason why we didn't is because of that very unusual value that the market placed on used vehicles. So I just wanted to explain that even though we were mandated to use this new cap when we did our taxes on automobiles, we did use it, but we didn't see the type of savings that the governor anticipated each and every municipality would see. And I think that is a reflection of the fact that our mill rate is relatively low, because if you look at other municipalities where their mill rate is 40, 50, 60, 70 mills, and you cap their car taxes at what is it, 32.4, they're going to see a difference. But when you're in a town like ours, you're not going to see that difference. And again, that's just a reflection of the market. Deputy Mayor Charmant touched base on the severe weather. He mentioned the cooling stations will be open. I wanted to also mention that if you weren't aware, there is a stage 2 drought. MDC wants us to know that we have plenty of water. Don't worry about water. It just means be cautious when you're doing your gardening, and be cautious with your water use. There is a scale that ranges from stage 1 to stage 5, with stage 5 being the worst, but the state just wants us to be aware of our water use. Milling and paving, you may have noticed our school parking lots are looking terrific, as is Town Hall. Milling and paving began June 22nd. It's scheduled to run about 8 weeks, and you can find out when and if your street is on the schedule if you go to our website, www.rockyhillct.gov. Summer brush pickup began today, and it runs through to this Friday, which is the 22nd. So make sure you get out there and clean your yards up ASAP so you don't miss that cleanup. And again, if you need information, you can find that on our website. And finally, in economic development news, be sure to check out the coverage of our revitalization efforts that were featured in the past 2 weeks in the Hartford Courant. Stemming from our Riverfront project and our Ames project. And a little update on Ames, the remediation process has begun. You've probably seen the trucks out there. That's going to take about 4 months, and that will be followed by demolition of the buildings that are out there, which should take about another 4 months according to the developer, and then construction is slated to begin in spring. And that concludes my report.
Okay.
And we will move to the town manager's report, which might be the interim town manager's report. Or we may not have one.
We may tag
If we
team it.
drop the screen right now, I have a PowerPoint presentation on my vacation. We can look at all 2,000 photos if you like. Or we can let Mona update us, because she was around and she's been involved in all the
For
activities.
the record, I'm just going to let everyone know that our interim town director has been in Singapore visiting family, and then Australia, and then back to Singapore, and literally just got in. So he is sincerely jet lagged.
So we should test him, what day of the week it is.
He won't pass.
I went to the wrong town hall coming in. Okay, we'll let Mona.
So the interim to the interim to the interim, we'll update just a bit from the departments. We had the Parks Department wanted to remind you that they have their concert series still going on Tuesday nights. On July 19th, they have Larry Stevens, the 26th, Shaded Soul, and August 2nd is the National Night Out, which we mentioned earlier with Jordan Oaks. Remaining free drive-in movies are on Fridays. We have on 7/22 Encanto and Spider-Man on 8/5. The next farmers market, July 27th. Hopefully we're going to have wonderful weather. And we're also doing the bid for the baseball field on 7/28. So there's some exciting things happening in parks. The library is doing some wonderful things as well. They are having Albert Zip Rizzo, PhD, who's from University of South Carolina, doing a virtual reality project, but he's also, Dr. Rizzo is a graduate from Rocky Hill High School. So they will be doing a presentation on Thursday evening, July 21st, in the community center. Also, the library would like to let us know that their chickens have now gone to a farm, but they are now showcasing caterpillars that will soon be monarch butterflies. And also for our senior center, on Friday, the 27th, if anyone would like to get your membership key tags, they're doing key tags and photos. They'll also be doing from 9 to 4 refreshments and a complimentary keychain if you like. They'll also be doing their Sweet Summer Grab and Go, which is on July 29th, which will be a mini cheesecake. They'll have one on August 8th and the 22nd as well. Also, Senior Center is doing some combined projects with Rocky Hill and Weathersfield, and we are doing a trip on Tuesday, tomorrow, which will be going to Holyoke, Mass. To the log cabin for lobster and a show, and they'll be planning some more of those, so watch with the Senior Center. They've got some good things happening. Is that-
Thank you, thank you.
Mona,
Okay.
can I ask you a question
Yes.
quickly?
Sure.
Are there any updates on the community center rental use? Any headway on that?
Actually, we have. We've made quite a bit of headway, and we're hoping we'll bring this to the next finance meeting. We've worked on some rates now. We're looking at just getting the language together. Craig Bowman in Parks has some good kind of boilerplate information that he's using for renting fields. So that gave us a good head start. Really, I think that helped us get a lot quicker than we expected. So using our own internal boilerplate, the rates we're working on with Senior Center as well, and with Ray Carpentino, we've had some group meetings and discussing that. So we should be able to present something to you very shortly.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And there's a question that came up earlier from the public, and I don't know if you have updates on. One of them was related to the traffic studies that we have around Ames, if those have been progressing, and the second was on our deep grant for food waste. So I don't know who would have the update for that, but do we have any updates for those items?
As far as the two issues that were mentioned, one, the dividend or Center Park expansion plan. I know before I left, which was June 29th, Steve Sopolak was working with BL companies to come up with the conceptual plans and coming up with the requirements for that. I'm not sure where that is right now. And he was also working with BL companies to establish the A2 survey, the initial A2 survey for the Glastonbury Avenue potential sidewalk or pedestrian walkway plan for that. So, and there was $24,000 budgeted for each of those.
And that gets us to the plan, and then we would have to act to implement on the plan through pursuing other grants or other funding
Right. Now,
sources.
most of the grants that are out now are funding construction, and they want you to have complete plans ready to go in order to tap into that construction money. So hopefully we can we can tap into some planning money because they do recognize that not every project will be shovel ready. So we will be looking at planning grants also.
There is a new grant that just came out. I know that you might know, but you probably don't.
Is that a Singapore grant?
Yeah, it is a
I scheduled you to watch the.
Thank you very much. I feel
I think it's from like the Center of the Arts or something like that through the state. And we were thinking maybe if this is like the beginning of sort of our downtown, we can package it all as one thing, going down Glastonbury Avenue and expanding the green, and maybe that would qualify. So, but we don't know. Yeah.
We love grants.
Yeah, it is really good.
You should print T-shirts. We love grants.
Okay. Do you want to
And
Oh,
comment?
yeah, did we
The
have,
other one was the waste reduction grant, which I am not an update on.
Yeah, we had a preliminary meeting, and I know that Deep is working on some stuff with respect to that. So we should hear shortly what the next steps are from Deep
moving forward?
moving forward. Okay, motion to adjourn?
Madam Mayor, motion to adjourn.
Second?